2025, almost every single job is going to be commoditized, from design, copywriting, sales, coding, even business strategy. AI can now do it all better, faster, cheaper than any human can. But here's the weird paradox. The more AI becomes prevalent in our everyday lives, the more valuable you become. Because if everybody can use ChatGPT, use prompts, and get the same work done, what is actually going to make you stand out? And the answer is your personal brand. And that is your beliefs, your voice, your story, and that is what people actually trust, and ultimately, that is what people buy. So the real opportunity isn't just using AI. AI is not going to take over your job. It's all about combining AI with your personal brand to become unforgettable in a sea of copycats. And the best part is, if you are looking to build your personal brand in 2025, the only thing you need is a laptop, a camera, and an internet connection. That is it. This isn't just theory. This is personally how I run my business today with a lean team who are all AI savvy. And the crazy part is I've actually personally coached people, taking them from their 9-to-5 jobs and teaching them how to sign high-ticket clients and build their personal brand in a matter of weeks. And we do this with the power of using AI. So if that's something you're also looking to do, launch, grow, and monetize your personal brand for 2025, I'm going to show you exactly how you can build a profitable personal brand, create world-class content, and sign high-ticket clients at breakneck speeds. And we're going to be using the skills you have or the skills that you desire to acquire. Now, the first step in the roadmap to building your personal brand is going to be finding your business idea. Now, I've worked with a number of people, helping them start a business from scratch, no experience and 0 followers. And the thing I've realized that gets people stuck and paralyzed is actually not picking a business idea. You would be surprised that there are maybe millions of people who always have this idea of one day I will start a business, but for some reason, they never start. And from my personal experience coaching so many people now, I'm going to share with you exactly why. So I'm borrowing this concept from Seth Godin, who had this book called The Dip, but I'm going to give my version of this. So in the entrepreneurial journey, in the beginning, things are going to be very exciting, right? You have all these ideas, but not much execution yet. So when you're planning all these ideas and you're imagining all the things that you can do, you write it all down on a piece of paper. But here's where most people get stuck. Their execution ends there because they get so overwhelmed. And so what happens is that they get hard stuck at this point. They don't even get far enough to taste any progress, to get their first client. And a lot of times they don't even post their first piece of content. So they're just swimming in a sea of ideas without any execution. And I get it. I've talked to a lot of people, and here's what they say. They think about, oh, what if this business model is not right for me? What if I fail? What if I'm not good enough? What if I actually succeed and I don't like the business I created? And it's crazy because this fear, and there are a lot of truths to these fears, right? You might fail. The chance of success is low. There are many people who've tried and also fail. You might embarrass yourself. But if you get in your own way and you let the opinions of other people stop you from getting what you actually want, you're not going to get any progress. So my recommendation in this is to actually first reframe your entire way of looking at a business. Instead of thinking, oh my God, this thing has to succeed or I'm gonna, look like a failure. Why not think of every business idea as a project? Like a school project. You're just doing it. Sometimes it works. If it does work, maybe that changes your life and you're off to the races. And if it doesn't work, take those learning lessons and try again. But as long as you never give up, then you never actually fail. So I remember when I first started my entrepreneurial journey, I started out as a travel vlogger of all things. I saw Casey Neistat at the time, and he was doing these daily vlogs, and I was like, I want to do that too. So I moved to Thailand and basically, did all this vlogging, and every day I would just go eat at, whatever restaurant, go to the, cafe. This is the life of a digital nomad. So after putting out 20 vlogs, guess how much money I made? Zero, nothing, literally nothing. So all that work and all those videos that I put together, I didn't make any money in the end. Now, was it a failure? Not necessarily, because I didn't give up creating content. Eventually, I've realized that if I just taught something or taught a skill that I was really good at, instead of just traveling in Thailand, maybe people would watch. And so that's when I started creating more content around sales, because I come from a tech sales experience background. And that is the thing that actually took off. And in my first month of making content around that, I actually made my first $1,000, and I just continued from there. So had I given up After those first 20 videos, I would have never even got to the point I am now, because I would have just died at that period where I was hard stuck. But because I pushed through and just didn't think of it as a failure, but more of a learning lesson, that I eventually found success. And that's not even including all the other business ideas that I failed before I decided to do content around sales and marketing and business. So now that you understand the mindset that it's okay to fail, and actually you should expect to fail, because that is the game of entrepreneurship. Even to this day, I fail at maybe half of the things that I try, but half of the things I do and it actually works out, progress the business in the right way. Now, if you're in the beginning stages, the first thing I actually recommend you is find a business idea. So it's not even build a personal brand yet, is understanding what you're going to sell. Because I've talked to a lot of creators, and I actually, have clients who are creators with millions of followers, and they'll say like, yeah, man, I have millions of followers, but I'm barely surviving. So how could that be? And it's because when you get into this content trap of just creating for the views and the likes, it doesn't mean anyone's going to pay you any money for anything. For example, if you were just doing skits and pranks and things like that, are people going to pay you for a high ticket coaching program or high ticket anything? Probably not, right? And you have to monetize in a whole different way. So the best way to actually find your business idea, in my opinion, is using the Ikigai. So the Ikigai essentially is a Japanese concept where it teaches you or helps you find your reason for being. So the key things are finding what you love, what the world needs, what you can be paid for, and what you're actually good at. Now, when you find the intersection of all these things, then you will find your Ikigai, and that's the direction you should go when it comes to starting a business, because you enjoy it, you love it, you're actually good at it. Okay, you can't be an NBA star if you're short, right? So that's just the reality of things. The world needs it, and you could be paid for it, right? So the chance of success is significantly higher if you use this than without using it. So I'm going to show you how to generate infinite business ideas using your Ikigai by running it through AI. Now, you can use any AI tool you choose, whether it's ChatGPT, Grok, or any other equivalent. But for today's video, and what I personally use, is ChatGPT. So if you do a prompt and you say, hey, you are an expert personal brand and entrepreneur coach, help me brainstorm what my Ikigai can be based on these variables: what I love, what I'm good at, what the world needs, and what I can be paid for. And underneath each bullet point, put 3 sub bullet points, or maybe 5, depending on how many things you're interested in, and run it through ChatGPT. So I went ahead and did this already, put it into ChatGPT, and I basically said like, hey, let's find my Ikigai. So based on this, it actually gave me some pretty good ideas, and it's actually very similar to what I'm currently doing now with the Founder X program, right? Which is my elite coaching program. So essentially the first one is the creator business architect, help people turn their skills into personal brands and print money through content, offers, and AI. That's pretty much what I'm doing now, to be honest, right? So you can see if you filled out your Ikigai, it's going to give you many options. Now, if you ask for it to give you multiple Ikigais, then you have different options and things you can choose from. Digital persuasion mastermind. So this one's going more in depth into communication and persuasion skill sets, which is its own niche, right? Creative strategist for freedom seekers, blended branding, content business model. So it's very similar to the first, right? Helping people make money by building their personal brands, essentially. Now, here's the thing. Once you do use this exercise and you fill it out for yourself, you may not like the outputs that it gives. So what you want to do is you want to keep re-rolling until it gives you a clear direction of where you want to go, right? So the way I think about it is you're essentially rolling the dice every time you use ChatGPT or any kind of prompt, right? And sometimes it gives you something really good. Sometimes it's a miss. If it's a miss, just correct it and be like, hey, I don't like these ideas, but I do like these ideas. Can you go ahead and give me 5 more ideas? And then from there, you just pick the best one. And eventually you will find a direction to go. You don't have to have everything figured out. You just need a direction. So the end of the exercise, the direction that I chose for this example is I help creators and founders build magnetic personal brands that turn their skills into cash, content into clients, and influence into total freedom using creativity, strategy, and AI. Now, it's not the cleanest one-liner, I admit. I can actually, I can probably rewrite it to make it better. But the core concept of helping creators and founders build magnetic personal brands so that they can eventually make money is exactly what I'm doing now. So it's pretty good in that it's accurate in analyzing your skill sets and finding opportunities, because it's not enough just to analyze what you're good at. What you're good at has to match with what can actually make money in the real world and what people want for today. Now, as you use AI to come up with different ideas, you're going to come across this situation where what are you actually supposed to be doing for people in order to make money? So the way I kind of look at it is, when you're creating a personal brand and you're creating content, a lot of times you might either sell services where you're doing work for somebody, or you're selling information. So knowledge that you have where you're coaching or consulting people, or even selling online courses. So there's basically a spectrum. So on the left side, I put more services like agencies and freelancing, right? You're doing work. On the right side, I put more knowledge, right? Coaching, consulting, courses. Now, obviously, if you do coaching and consulting, you're selling courses, it's a bit more easier on the fulfillment, in that you're not really doing any of the work. You're just telling someone how they should do the work. And that in itself is very valuable. If you look at any large consulting firms like Deloitte or McKinsey or Boston Consulting Group, they are essentially selling knowledge as well. They're not doing the work. They're just telling you what to do. And that's a big business in itself. And nowadays, especially with the rise of like companies like WAP and School, who are on a race to become the next billion-dollar unicorn, everyone's jumping in on the trend of selling online courses and selling education. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, for services, this is actually much easier to start out, because when you're selling a course, it's hard for someone to trust you if you don't really have a brand yet and you're just getting started. But if you were to demonstrate your expertise online, even if you don't have that many followers, you can sell a service. For example, if you talked about how you grew your Instagram to whatever number of followers, and you want to help brands, like actual brands that are generating revenue, do the same, you can just do it for them and charge $3,000 a month, right? But if you try to sell the same person a course for $3,000, they're going to be like, nah, I'd rather just have someone do it for me, right? They want to hire you instead. So services is where most people start in order to get cash flow right away. And a coaching can also technically be a service. For example, helping someone get a tech sales job, right? You're not going to actually do the job for them, but you're going to do the services to get them the job, okay? A lot of times people want to pivot more into info products because it becomes more scalable. And what I find currently in this market, especially if you want to go high ticket, is doing a hybrid between services and info products, where whatever you're selling comes with an online course, but you also coach them and kind of hold their hand along the way. So that way they're not just like paying for a super expensive course, but they're kind of getting both at the same time. So these are just kind of thoughts that I had, because as I'm coaching a lot of people, especially through the program founderx.net, if you want to check it out, people run across this problem, right? They want to build something scalable, but then nobody's going to buy their course because they don't have much credibility. So they have to start with services and start building up, getting client results, and then eventually do a hybrid and, charge high ticket doing that. Now, the key I would recommend to anybody is just to charge $2,000 to $5,000. Now, it might sound crazy in the beginning, because you might think, who on earth would pay me $2,000 to help them do XYZ? You'd be surprised. A lot of this day and age right now, the everyday regular person is used to the idea of paying for expensive coaching. And when I started doing this kind of stuff, let's say more than 5 years ago, right? It wasn't as common to spend like $5,000 on some kind of online business program. Was crazy, because I would say over the last like 5 years, the value of going to a traditional university has definitely have been on the decline. And a lot of these new skill sets, especially in marketing, they're not really taught in universities anymore. So it actually makes more sense to take an online program that will actually teach you something that's valuable today. And so because of this shift, more and more people want to learn something useful online, and they don't want to take, anthropology and no hate on anthropology, but they don't want to take that in university because it's not going to help them make money. So $2,000 to $5,000, just charge that. And then what happens is your brain will come up with ways to justify the price and to provide the value for someone to actually say yes, because there are levels to this game. And I call this the creator founder ascension path, because in the beginning, you're going to get paid for the skills that you have, right? You're doing work for people, you're building websites, you're running their sales, you're doing sales development work, whatever it is, right? And then when you get good at that thing, people will actually pay you for your advice. So you will get paid for what you know. So that could be coaching, consulting, advisory services, right? And then from there, once you actually build a large following and you're respected and you are an authority in your space, you would get paid for who you are. Meaning just the fact that you show up to an event, just the fact that you step on stage, for example, you would get paid for that. And so that is essentially the ladder a lot of creators go through, right? They start in the beginning, having to do a lot of work. Maybe it's freelancing. Then they start teaching, creating online programs. And then if they continue and they make their content really good, they become almost like a niche celebrity in their particular field. And by the way, if you're someone who's actually serious about building a personal brand and monetizing it and selling coaching, consulting, or even online courses, you definitely want to check out my free training over at founderx.net, where I'm going to show you my methodology on how I was able to do it for myself and get to over 300,000 subscribers. And if you want to take it to the next level, and you need some clarity on exactly how you should be even going about building your personal brand, you can apply to book a call with me and my team, where we will help you craft a custom strategy for you to start building your personal brand, creating content, and monetizing your following. So if that sounds interesting to you at all, definitely book a call over at founderx.net, sign up for the free training, and we will talk to you soon. Now, the next thing I will share with you is how you can make money fast. Now, everyone's going to say, oh, if you do a personal brand, it's going to take a long time before you make any money. That is true. It may take a long time, but at the same time, it may be shorter than you think, because I've personally coached people who started with 0 following, and we were able to get their first high ticket client, meaning they paid from 2 to 5K in a matter of 2 weeks. Now, how is this possible? It's only possible when you actually find the right business idea, you create a really good offer that somebody wants to buy. From there, when you're creating content, every piece of content that you put out is almost like an advertisement promoting your services. If people like you and they trust that you can actually deliver on the results that you promise, they will buy even if you only have 100 followers. It's all about your authority and how you present yourself online. So if you want to make money as quickly as possible, there are only 2 things you really need to focus on. Number 1 is how people will discover you. How are they going to even hear about who you are? Is it going to be YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn? Are you going to cold email people? It doesn't matter what method you choose, you just have to pick one. And the second thing you need to think about is, how are you going to convert those eyeballs into dollars? Right? Because you can't just keep making content after content after content without a clear strategy on how to actually monetize your audience. And you need this strategy right in the beginning of building your personal brand. A lot of people make the mistake of, oh, I'll start monetizing when I have 10,000 followers. No, please. You can start monetizing when you have 10 followers. It's okay to monetize. People actually want to give you money. You just don't realize it yet. Now, here's a very key lesson I've learned coaching so many people start their personal brands and monetizing. Don't worry so much about the delivery on your service. Not in the beginning, at least. Now, that might sound counterintuitive. You might be thinking, oh, like, I thought if I had a really good service, then, more and more people will buy. Actually, that's not true at all, because I've seen people who are 10 years in the coaching game, but they've never been doing anything online. It's all referrals, all word of mouth, all going to physical, in-person events. And the moment they try to make content on YouTube or LinkedIn, it'll literally get like 3 likes, no engagement, and nobody buys their services through the content. So they're so focused on providing the best service, but they can't even get anyone on a call. So I would highly recommend you guys, don't worry so much on the delivery. Focus on getting the money first. And once you get the money, then you can focus on delivering on your services. But if nobody gave you a single dollar, do not focus on delivery at all, because it's just a waste of time. I've seen so many people, they try to build the perfect service. They plan everything out. They have an outline and they have a program. The reality is, you can sell like a $2,000 program off of a Google Sheet. I've done it myself. I've sold to public companies that are on the stock exchange with literally a Notion that I exported as a PDF, and I sent them the PDF and they're like, okay, sounds good. When do we get started? So focus on the sale first, delivery second, so that you don't get stuck at 0 revenue forever. Now, when it comes to which platform you should be choosing, let's go ahead and use our AI friend over here. So we have a prompt, and all you have to do is so simple. You ask, based on my Ikigai, give me recommendations on which platforms I should be creating on to attract my ideal clients. Consider where my audience hangs out, competition on each platform, and my Ikigai is, and insert whatever gave you before. So I went ahead and done this already on ChatGPT, and based on my Ikigai and everything that it knows about me, it highly recommended that I do YouTube long form and shorts. And the second one that I really recommended is LinkedIn. So I can understand that, because YouTube is basically where people go to discover you, right? Like it's anytime you want to learn something new, it's YouTube. LinkedIn makes sense because I do help a lot of people go from their 9 to 5 to starting their own business, and it's more professional, and there are more people who have higher incomes compared to Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. Now, every platform can work, but it just depends on what works best for you. Like, for example, if you were a landing page designer, right now, X Twitter is one of the best places to be. Even for my website on Founder X, I found the person who designed it on Twitter, right? And I literally saw his work. He just posted something and I DM'd him and I said, hey man, I love your work. Would love for you to help me with my website. And boom, we got the website done in a week. So I do YouTube because once you know what your business idea is and you know which platform you want to build on, whether it's YouTube or LinkedIn, from there, gotta create content that sells. So here's one of the biggest lessons I've learned over the past 5 years of doing YouTube. There are pieces of content that help you get more exposure, and there are pieces of content that you can make that actually make money, right? So I do a combination of both. So when I do a video like this one, where I'm going very deep into how to actually build a personal brand, going into ChatGPT, it's a very how-to content, but it aims to inspire you to show you that it's possible, right? Now, I don't expect this video to get like many views, but I expect the people that watch this far to be very serious about building their personal brands, right? So this would be an example of content that actually sells. If I do another video called Dark Psychology Sales Hacks, that doesn't necessarily sell the idea of a personal brand, but it'll go viral, it'll get hundreds of thousands of views, and more people will know who I am. So a percentage of those people who watch my more viral videos will maybe be interested in building a personal brand and watch this video. So you see, I use both the viral kind of like mass appeal videos that have really strong packaging and it's more for a broader audience that anybody can watch, and then I'll have the more sales focused videos that converts people into book calls. So you got to find the balance between the two. And to be honest, nowadays, if you're like a business channel and you only focused on content that sells, that brings value to your specific ideal customer, and each video just getting a couple thousand views, you can still make a lot of money in this day and age. Now, here's something I've learned about content that maybe not a lot of people will talk about. And to explain it, I have a nice quote from this guy, Machiavelli. And he said, everyone sees what you appear to be, few experience what you really are. So Machiavelli is known as a philosopher, a thinker who did a lot of writing in the past about politics, power, manipulation, persuasion, these kind of topics, right? So my interpretation of this quote is, it doesn't matter how good you are at what you do if nobody believes you actually are good. Because I've taken a lot of sales calls with many different people from different backgrounds. Now, sometimes I'll talk to somebody who has like a decade, years of experience in a certain subject, whether it's sales or some kind of coaching, right? But because they don't know how to create content and they're not really in tune with the culture, whatever they put out just doesn't resonate and nobody wants to watch. They may provide a killer service that can change lives, but they're not perceived that way online, so they just don't get any customers, right? And on the other end of the spectrum, I've seen people who just faked it till they made it, never really had any success. They just lied about how much money they made, and they made money teaching people how to make money. So two ends of the spectrum. But the person who faked it till they made it, the skill that they did have was content creation and perception, making people believe at scale that they are who they say they are. Now, is it wrong? Is it lying? Yes, it is. But there's a lesson in there, right? And we can find a middle ground, because you can be really good at what you do, but if nobody knows who you are, nobody buys. So even if you're good, you have to learn the game. You have to know how to create content. You need to know how to package your video so you actually get some attention and get some views, because it doesn't matter what is true. What matters is what people believe to be true. And this is actually really crazy, because there are certain people that I know, or maybe know of, let's just say that, where for a fact, the things that they've done in business-wise have been very gray, very questionable, right? If you know all the back ends of the business, you'll be like, what the heck? And I've seen these people go on some of the biggest business podcasts in the world like today. And I know, with high certainty that they probably pay these podcasters to be on their show so that they can rewrite the narrative. So if you've done for some people, if they have done something gray, not very good, with money and the right connections, you can actually pay for the narrative to be rewritten. Because if all these podcasters who are known to be like very influential in the space, especially in the business space, are all supporting you and they all have you on their show, then suddenly you rewrite history. You have your message out there that's the most public, the most visible. And plus you're taking those clips, cutting them up and just like sending them to all your clip farms. And now you got millions of views around this narrative and people believe it to be true. Now, is it necessarily true? Maybe not, but it doesn't matter, because I think what Machiavelli figured out in the past, and even for me, I'm kind of realizing this now, whoever has the money and connections control the media, essentially, because a lot of people can be bought, believe it or not. And so once these people are bought and they're sharing a certain narrative that supports that person, whatever they say on their YouTube channel or whatever they say in their content suddenly becomes more believable because all these credible people are backing them. So to win in this content game is public perception, it's PR, it's getting people to believe in you. So I'll give you a personal example of how I experienced this myself. When I started doing YouTube, I started in the tech sales niche. So when I was growing very slowly in the beginning with like 30 views each video, what I did that really popped off and worked was when I started talking about my experience in tech sales and just teaching people what I knew about selling. Now, did I have the most experience in tech sales, like in general? No, I probably had like 2 years of sales experience at that point, right? So what makes me more qualified to teach tech sales on YouTube compared to the other guy who has maybe 15 years of experience working at the biggest companies in the world, signing the biggest deals? Well, the other guy's probably more qualified, to be honest. But the thing is, he's not on YouTube. So his information that he has, he's just not able to bring it out into the world. I'm sure the knowledge that he has and the people that he can mentor, they will get a lot of value from that. But the fact that they don't actually put in the work to create the content and do this at scale means there's a gap. There's an opportunity for any expert to become a somebody. So when I saw that gap way back in the day, like 5 or 6 years ago, I was like, well, all these guys who are doing sales content, they're just not good content creators. I came from more of a content creator perspective because I actually came from the travel vlogging, trying to do that. So when I pivoted more to the sales content and tried to increase my production quality and, make the videos as interesting as possible, when, at the time sales was seen as a boring subject. Nowadays, it's not as boring because it's tied to making money, right? But back in the day, it was very boring. I try to make it as interesting as possible, and it just really resonated with a certain audience. So understand, when you are starting out, don't worry about not being the top 1% in what you do. Don't worry about if you don't have all the accolades compared to another guy. Find a pocket in the market where you can fill that no one else is filling. Do it in a different way, right? I never said I was the best salesperson in the world. I just shared my personal experience and it just resonated with a lot of people. So whatever it is that you want to teach and build your personal brand around, understand you only have to be one step ahead of the person you teach. And anyone who tells you that you're not allowed to teach someone that you're actually better in, it's just a hater. That's like saying if you had a sales job and you were 1 year in and you're not allowed to teach someone who just joined the company. It's like, no, you are allowed. And actually that would probably be very helpful for that person who's starting from zero. And I know all these people online, they're like, oh, that guy's not an expert, and they're just hating on other people. But that hate is actually just a reflection of maybe who they are, their past experience, maybe they got burned. So don't let another person's hate stop you from doing what you want to do, which is, and if you want to create content and build a personal brand, you probably want to inspire and help other people similarly to how you probably wish someone helped inspire you when you started doing whatever it is that you do. Now, as you start creating content, understand this. The messenger is just as important as the message, because with AI, like AI can write all your YouTube scripts, right? Even I use AI for a lot of the script writing as well. I use a lot of my personal experiences and I add my own sauce, but to structure it, especially the intro, I do actually use a lot of AI. So if everyone has access to all the information of the world at our fingertips, why is it that they should watch you? And it's because the messenger is extremely important. When you just read something from a book or you just ask something to ChatGPT, sure, it can tell you what to do, but it doesn't mean you actually do it. But when you hear someone's story and you connect with them emotionally, and they tell you the same exact information, it might just click for that person and they might actually take action on your words. So that's why the messenger is so important. So when you are creating content, especially when it comes to video, here's some tips I have for you that will make a huge difference in getting views, especially in the beginning. The first is you have to pay attention to your physical appearance and your aesthetics. So if you're teaching people, let's say, how to make money online, if you're making the video from a tiny room, poorly lit, and you just look broke, who's going to watch your video if they don't believe you're successful? But if you, for example, have a nice setup, nice camera, a nice light, and in the back, you see the river and the cars, and it's very clear you're in a high-rise building, then the odds of someone believing you're successful is significantly higher. And remember, it's not about what's true or not. It's what people believe. You might be the most successful person in the world, but if you're like filming your video in a shoebox, you may not get many views. And that actually happens to a lot of smart people who put content on YouTube. Whereas the person that is really good at the whole branding, the aesthetics, the vibe, even though they're not as good at doing the thing, they'll get more views and maybe make more money off of YouTube because of that packaging. And I actually give you one of my personal prompts. So when I'm assessing the vibes of a video, from the outfit, how I do my hair, should I wear glasses or not, the background, the setting, everything, I'll actually run it through ChatGPT to give me a feedback on what I should be improving. So I'll be like, you are a personal brand and style expert. Give me a rating from 1 to 10 on my outfit I'll be wearing for my YouTube video. Also rate my current studio setup. Does this attract my ideal viewer? Why or why not? What can I improve to make this a 10 out of 10 outfit? So a trick I've been actually doing is everything I give ChatGPT, I'll ask it to rate 1 out of 10, and then I'll ask it to tell me what a 10 is. So that's the way I can improve. So you see here, I went ahead and put it in. Overall fit rating 8.5. It's giving me some feedback. Studio setup 9 out of 10. Also give me some feedback on how I can do the framing better, how to do the lighting better. Okay, makes sense. Final verdict. Does this attract my ideal viewer? Yes, it does. So a couple tweaks to get it to that 9, 10 level, but not bad, right? And I'll be honest, how I actually got this setting to look like this was running all my old videos through ChatGPT. Because if you looked at my older videos, when I looked at it, I felt like it just wasn't hitting for me. And actually all the equipment is the same, so I didn't spend any money buying anything new. So understand, it's just how you put things together that make all the difference in your setting and vibe. And based on ChatGPT's rating, I went from basically a 6 to an 8, 9 by just following its recommendations. As simple as that. Tonality is actually very important because I'll just give you an example. If I was selling an online course about how to pick up girls, and imagine if I sounded like this.
Hey guys, it's Patrick Dank here, and today I want to show you how I pick up the chicks.
So, if I actually sounded like that and I actually was trying to build a dating channel, do you think people would believe me? Do you think people would buy anything from me? Probably not. So that's an extreme example, but it does show that how you sound and your tonality is extremely important to build trust. Now, the final thing to get people to buy or watch your content is the words you actually say. So it's actually pretty funny because it's the words you actually say come last. Right? It's the packaging, the thumbnail, the title, first 30 seconds, how you look, how you sound. Once all those boxes are checked and they're at a certain level where it's acceptable to watch, and then it goes to what you actually say. So the messenger, like I was saying, is sometimes more important than the message. And of course, when you make good content, yeah, people will stick around, they'll continue to watch videos, but don't make the mistake of neglecting your packaging, because that is where everything begins. If you cannot get the click, you will not get the view. And as you continue through your entrepreneur journey and you break that point where most people get stuck, what's going to happen is that you're going to go up and everything's going to feel really good. You're going to make content. And then when you put it out, you're going to feel this dip. You're going to feel this dip because you're not as good as you think you are. So when you put out video, you might get 20 views, 30 views. And then you put out another one, another 50 views, another one, you go back to 20 views, right? And you're going to put out 20 videos and you're going to barely have not even 100 subscribers. And that is going to be that dip. And not everybody, but majority of people will experience this dip, right? And even for me, I was getting 20, 30, 50 views per video for the first 6 months of doing YouTube. Can you imagine that? And I just kept going at it over and over and over. So in 1 month now, I get more subscribers than I did my whole first year of doing YouTube. And it's because I didn't have the skill sets yet to make really good videos, and the algorithm didn't catch up yet either, right? And nowadays it's way easier to do YouTube because the algorithm and AI is so good. So once you get past this dip, you want to keep building and building and building, and over time, if you stick with it, if you constantly get better, if you feed your scripts and your videos and how you dress and your whole thing through AI to continue to get better and better, you will experience this exponential growth. but you have to stick with it long enough to get to that point. And most people, I will tell you this, probably more than 90% of people do not get past the dip. I would even argue that more than 90% of people don't even put out their first piece of content, even though they had the idea of building a personal brand. So trust me, you have to keep going and something will click as long as you improve. Now, if you made it this far, obviously you're extremely serious about building your personal brand. So I highly encourage you to go to founderx.net, book a time to talk to me and my team where we're going to help you strategize the best personal brand using your unique skills, interests, and passions. And we're going to personally find ways for you to monetize your audience. So if you need help and you're serious